Mr. Crane, the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations was tasked with funding large-scale demonstrations under the bipartisan infrastructure law to de-risk technologies for industry. So I want to ask you just what metrics you're going to be thinking about to ensure that those large demonstrations are truly addressing the key risks to be able to move those things towards adoption, deployment, scale.
Senator Heinrich, thank you for that question, and your characterization is right. It's mainly big projects within OSET, although we have the $1 billion for rural and remote, smaller projects. But on the big projects, I think actually the genius of the law is this hub concept, which I think could be described more as an ecosystem. And one of the things that we're trying to do is sometimes in the past with DOE projects, we talk about that they have been demonstrate and dismantle, and what we're really looking out for is demonstrate and deploy. And I think a particular area of focus for me, because the DOE's technical strength has almost no limit, but more on the commercial offtake. I mean, these projects not only have to operate, within their ring fence, but they have to be commercially sound. So I would tell you that that's the singular thing I'm focused on, particularly when you look at something like hydrogen, where we're going to ramp up hydrogen production, but we have to look at the demand for hydrogen at the same time.
Yeah, and I think it's not just about the technical aptitude, but then being demonstrated in a way to bankability that industry takes off with these things, right? I mean, that's really the 1, 2, 3, 4 approach to getting this stuff to scale, is showing that it really works, and then that you can build it in a way that is profitable. And then once the loan program office, for example, works with someone to do that step, then the banks and other financial sector players will jump in, and these things will be off and running on their own.
Senator, that's an extremely insightful point. And in fact, we're standing up a small team right now. What I'm very concerned about is the Department of Energy has a lot of negotiating in these public-private partnerships, but what we can't do is structure projects that the private sector would never replicate. Right. So I would tell you in my 2 months at the DOE, the word replicability has passed my lips more often than it has in my previous 63 years. So that's one of our mantras.
So let's shift specifically to the industrial sector, and how should we be thinking about infrastructure planning and investment to be able to decarbonize the next frontier, which is really heavy industry, cement, glass, aluminum, all of steel, all of those industrial processes that rely on high heat?
The decarbonization of industry, and that's, of course, I think we now have a total of $5.8 billion for that. It's just one of the most exciting things that we have on our plate, and we've been looking at 7 hard-to-abate sectors. And based on my experience, and I was on the board of a steel company before I resigned to come to, is that the key is to go to the heart of the process, where the process, in a lot of heavy industry thinks that there is no zero carbon solution for the process heat that's at the center of the core of what they do. And I think with the money that's been authorized for Congress, we can put out demonstration projects that can show that you can create very high temperature, 1,000 to 1,400 degrees centigrade heat, without putting carbon into the atmosphere.
I want to shift to you, Mr. Marutian. EERE has an opportunity to exercise its standard-setting authority in a way that really advances grid efficiency and clears the way for rapid clean energy development. And the department, for instance, could choose to establish an efficiency standard for electricity conductors that promotes the use of modern and efficient advanced conductors across the grid. Reconductoring existing transmission with advanced conductors can double corridor capacity. It can lower line losses. Customers can experience significant savings, all without the decades-long planning challenges that the chairman is all too familiar with. Would you work with my office to evaluate how DOE can promote the deployment of advanced conductors as one of our transmission solutions?
Senator Heinrich, I would be delighted to.
Chairman, I have 4 seconds left, so I'm gonna give back all that time.
He can look, we'll probably use it when he gets time. We're so, now we have Senator Cassidy.
First, Mr. Crane, the most important question is your wife, Miss Delahousie, by maiden name, from Louisiana. That's a very common Louisiana name, although Isabella is not.